Well, we're down by the Vardra rugby pitches where the young men of Clydach come and play their rugby and show their prowess and represent their village. Well, why would I stop here on this day? What would make me stop here? Well, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was, in essence, a public sport. It was a public display. It was a public display set up by the Romans and by the religious leaders of Jesus' day, a public display of their power over Jesus Christ, a public display of their power over him and all that he stood for. The religious leaders were going to prove that they truly understood things as they were. The Romans would bow to their will. And Pontius Pilate did so and washed his hands of Christ. And for him, well, he had nothing to do with Christ. The religious leaders, they had a lot to do with Christ, and they had deemed him to be an apostate and unfit to live. And so in a very public way, Jesus is hung on a cross, a very public display of right conquering wrong. But actually the tables were turned, and on the cross Jesus displayed that he was right, and there on the cross he bore the penalty of rebellion against God, of sin. And there on the cross he bore the price. He did not deserve to be there. He should not have been there, and yet he was there, and it was his will to be so. I may read a little bit from John 19. Knowing that all was now complete, so that the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked it in a sponge, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, he said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Jesus decided that he had drunk enough of the bitter cup. Jesus decided that his work was done and that it was finished, and Jesus gave up his life. In this very public place, it was Jesus actually who was in control. He remained on the tree, but few could see it, and few now see it. But it was Jesus who hung upon the tree willfully, and he did so that sinners could be saved, so that sin could be dealt with, so that the poison of sin could be drawn out. And he did it not in a quiet and private place, but on a public spectacle, a sport. Well, what a relief he did so. What a relief he did it in public, so that we know his words. What a relief that he did so thoroughly, so that he could say, "It is finished." And that's what we rely on. And today, on Easter Friday, Good Friday, we rely on the fact that Jesus Christ came into the world and willingly gave up his life for sinners and willingly offers it to others. Those great words are some of the greatest words in all the world. It is finished. It is finished and my Messiah died. The Messiah dies, says a hymn writer. It is finished, the Messiah dies. Well, today, may you know something of the blessing of that awful, awful day of Calvary, when it seemed the enemy was victorious, but actually Christ was. And may God bless you and keep you. And today, cause his face to shine upon you and give you peace. Well, from me and my little sporty friend, have a good evening.